But the fact that a baby was born doesn't mean that the baby was born, well, that bump housed the baby.
So, a baby was born. The birth was registered. That's not the scandal. That's the fact. But darling, the real question is, did that baby actually come from that bump? Because when I tell you the footage, the photos, the infamous bounce, fold, and float of that mysterious midsection, it's got people talking. And let's just say the silence from the usual defenders is deafening. Something is off, and the receipts just keep showing up. It all started with a dream. She was America's answer to royalty, sparkling eyes, humanitarian goals, and the kind of chic neutrals that screamed fashion diplomacy. A duchess who hugged children, preached feminism, and held Harry's hand like she was anchoring him to planet Earth. It was supposed to be a new chapter for the royals, modern, inclusive, photogenic. But darling, that fairy tale? Turns out the real story might have more plot twists than House of Cards.
Honestly, the bump in this image looks unnaturally firm, high, and foldable.
Because let's be honest, the cracks were always there. The bump wasn't just a bump, it was performance art. It sat high, firm, and, let's be generous, unusually foldable. Late-term pregnancies don't behave like that. And those videos where the belly moved independently of the body, let's just say maternity wear usually doesn't double as origami. Even post-birth, things looked anatomically avant-garde. The placement of the belly, the body proportions, the mysteriously unengorged bust, it didn't scream just gave birth. It screamed, props department, scene 1. And once the palace doors shut, so did the brand deals. The podcast flopped. Netflix quietly ghosted those ambitious animated dreams. Hollywood wasn't calling, not unless it was to say, sorry, we've gone in another direction. Turns out, monetizing royal status isn't that simple when you're no longer royal enough. And here's the kicker. She was offered the chance to keep acting, to stay in the game, to have a career. Other royal-adjacent actresses did it gracefully. But no, that wasn't the plan. Because this wasn't about roles on screen. This was about owning the narrative, owning the brand, and cashing in on the crown. The only problem? The crown doesn't do co-branding.
My take on it is that she went into the royal family intending to commercialize.
When the Queen said no to half in, half out, it all changed. Until then, the plan was clear. Stay royal enough for prestige, stay private enough for profit. But once that door closed, the pivot was fast. Suddenly, it wasn't service is universal, it was service is monetizable. Strategic exits, pre-written announcements, a move to California that looked less like exile and more like a business expansion. This wasn't retreat, it was rebrand. And it became obvious who was driving the strategy. Let's just say it wasn't the one with the military medals.
Do you realise that this is the end? And Meghan responds, yes, I do know.
But public perception, brutal. The memes, vicious. The commentary, unforgiving. She went from duchess to diva in record time. And then came the lip readers. Old footage surfaced, subtle moments at royal events, whispers caught on camera. Things like, take advantage of this situation, and you do realize this is the end. It wasn't a split, it was a strategy. The image of the wide-eyed, overwhelmed duchess? Let's be honest, she was already 2 steps ahead. The world's catching up to the playbook. And former allies? They're quiet, too quiet. Meanwhile, in Montecito, someone has to pay the bills. PR firms, security teams, elite schools, it adds up. That glossy lifestyle, it doesn't come with royal funding anymore. And all the brand building in the world can't cover for dwindling interest and drying up deals. There's independence, and then there's invoice panic. She needs the money. She needs the attention. She's built a life that requires both. And when the public doesn't buy the product anymore, you better believe the pressure's mounting.
Set in a lavish $8 million Montecito estate, the show offered carefully curated moments, lavender-scented towels, rainbow-coloured fruit platters, and herb baskets picked fresh from the garden. But for many, the show felt anything but authentic. Instead of inviting connection, it drew criticism for its overly manicured tone and rigid perfectionism. Meghan's insistence on being called Sussex rather than Markle struck some as overly controlling. Her interactions with celebrity guests, often stiff, rehearsed, and visibly curated, made the show feel more like a branding exercise than a warm domestic series. Critics pointed out that even the estate featured in the show wasn't her actual home. What was meant to be a celebration of simple joys ended up feeling like a stage, one where every move was carefully orchestrated and the audience left outside the velvet rope. The response was swift. Major British outlets including The Guardian, Forbes and The Telegraph labelled the show tone-deaf, vacuous and joyless. Online, the backlash exploded across TikTok and Reddit, with parody clips mocking the overly stylized content and Meghan's soft-voiced narration. Even more damaging were the deeper critiques. Media analyst Leslie Gray Streeter argued that the intense pushback wasn't just about editing or aesthetics. It revealed societal discomfort with Meghan as a wealthy black woman living a soft life. For some, her calm domestic world clashed too deeply with their expectations of humility or restraint. Meanwhile, royal biographer Angela Levin accused the show of borrowing heavily from earlier lifestyle formats, including comparisons to a 2000 show by Pamela Anderson, and called Meghan's presentation disingenuous. She even noted that Meghan has admitted not enjoying actual cooking, but prefers arranging. Through it all, the show seemed to lack humour, vulnerability, or genuine engagement. Critics felt it was less about living well and more about being seen living well. And in the world of streaming content, image alone rarely sustains a loyal audience. Since stepping back from royal duties in 2020, Meghan and Prince Harry have pursued independence through high-profile media deals. The couple signed a reported $100 million agreement with Netflix in 2020 and launched multiple projects, from documentaries to podcasts. But the results have been mixed. Their Spotify deal was quietly dropped in 2023. And now, despite With Love, Meghan being renewed for a second season, inside sources say Netflix executives are re-evaluating the show's direction due to poor audience retention and damaging press. While Meghan continues to build her brand around authenticity, wellness, and empowerment, the growing disconnect between her presentation and public perception may be undermining that strategy. The image of a hands-on mother making rainbow crudity clashes with doubts about scripted scenes and borrowed homes. It's not just about content, it's about credibility. And that's where Meghan's greatest challenge may now lie. With Love, Meghan set out to redefine Meghan Markle's public narrative, but instead of warmth, it sparked a cold wave of criticism. Behind the floral centerpieces and folded linens lies a deeper story, one of image, expectation, and disconnect. As season 2 looms uncertain, the question remains: can Meghan reclaim the audience's trust, or has her lifestyle empire already cracked at the foundation?
It's about perception, authenticity, and a troubling contradiction between Meghan's public statements and her commercial actions.
First taste of Meghan's jam. Wow, this is the perfect sour jam. It's not too sweet. I don't like my jams too sweet. This is amazing.
It's so good. It's like I'm eating crushed up raspberries with a hint of lemon, which is very nice and refreshing.
When As Ever launched in early April 2025, it appeared to be an instant hit. Multiple items sold out within 45 minutes. But that early success quickly came under fire. Critics pointed out that product drops were limited, so limited that many believed the sellouts were manufactured. Shoppers were told they could only buy the rosé wine in sets of 3 bottles, totaling $90 without ever tasting it. Meanwhile, pre-orders for items like apricot spread were canceled and refunded after weeks of waiting. Even Meghan's most devoted followers voiced frustration. Refund emails offered apologies and promises of free replacements later, but the damage was done. The strategy of scarcity, which works for luxury fashion, failed here. As branding experts warned, short-term hype doesn't build long-term trust. This brings us to a deeper tension. Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal duties in early 2020, citing the need for independence and privacy. Since then, they've emphasized building a life outside the palace walls. But as ever evolved, Meghan appeared to pull heavily from the very royal image she had left behind. From launching the brand near Princess Diana's birthday, to invoking traditional British aesthetics in product design, to benefiting from headlines centered not around the brand, but her status as the Duchess of Sussex, it's clear that the royal connection still drives interest. Meghan might not hold royal duties anymore, but as ever is still cloaked in royal undertones. Experts say that this inconsistency is hurting her credibility. It's not just a marketing choice, it's a contradiction, and the audience is noticing. Another issue is identity. Branding professionals describe As Ever as one of the worst executed celebrity brands they've ever seen, not because of lack of reach, but lack of authenticity. The name As Ever itself means little to most consumers. The brand began as American Riviera Orchard, but was rejected for trademark registration due to its geographic nature. When As Ever was introduced, it was immediately associated with generic visuals and no consistent story. Furthermore, many products appear to be white-labeled from existing suppliers. For example, the herbal teas closely resemble those of Republic of Tea. The cookie mix, reportedly sourced from Williams-Sonoma. This undermines the narrative that Meghan is a hands-on creator and entrepreneur. She markets herself as a modern homemaker, yet branding experts argue she would be better suited embracing her natural role, the disruptor. Meghan was never a Martha Stewart. She was the woman who left the monarchy. That power lies in authenticity, not imitation. So where does this leave As Ever? At a crossroads. Meghan Markle has the spotlight, the audience, the resources, and yes, the name. But without consistency, transparency, and a clear identity, even the most loyal fans will start turning away. This isn't about jam or wine or tea. It's about whether the brand reflects the person, or just the image she thinks people want to see. Until those two things align, As Ever may remain stuck not in timeless elegance, but in a cycle of disappointment.